Hey, welcome back to a new episode. My name is Varun and we are at the Red Music Box and let's dive into mixing. What on earth is mixing? I mean, every Tom, Dick and Harry wants to get into mixing. It's kind of like guitar players walking into a store, picking up their first guitar and then expecting that, hey, I'm going to start playing solos right off the bat. So does that mean mixing is only reserved for professionals? Really? In that case, where and how do you start? So let's take a look at some of the things that you need to dive into mixing and really get good professional results. In a nutshell, mixing is all about balancing your tracks with regards to volume, pan, adding effects, EQing it, compressing it, and sometimes adding your DSRs and blah and blah and blue and all kinds of things like that. So firstly, when you start mixing, we're looking at a static mix. Now, what is a static mix? You're looking at balancing tracks purely using the volume faders and allowing them to coexist with each other. So these volumes kind of remain pretty much for about 80% of the time throughout the track, except few sections of the song where you may want to write the faders up and down, which is called as automation, that we're going to be dealing with at a later time. The second thing is understanding stereo width. Now, between the two speakers that you have, where are you going to place every single element of music that you have within your session? Where exactly is it going to be placed? If you are able to get a good static mix going, a huge chunk of your mixing work is done. Now, let's look at some of the plugins that you really need in order to get a really good mix going. To begin with, you need an EQ, you need a compression, you definitely might need a DSR for vocal tracks and stuff like that, or a gate, and then you need reverb, delay, a saturation plugin, and in case you're kind of mastering your track, then you may need a limiter, otherwise not. So we're looking at about 6 to 7 plugins that you kind of need in most cases. All these plugins are available within your DAW. So if that's the case, then what about all the third-party plugins that we seem to love, and especially all the analog simulation plugins that we seem to love? Is that just an exercise to fleece money? Answer is yes and no. So it requires you to get a fundamental understanding of these plugins and what exactly is the purpose of using each of these, and then you'll be able to decide if you need it or if you want it. What about all the faithful analog reproduction? We have somehow learned over time that our digital brothers and sisters have grown so perfectly, but somehow yet we are not okay with the perfection that they have grown. We still want the imperfections of the analog reproductions because there was noise in it, there was a certain characteristic in it. I think it kind of matches the human imperfection element a bit, so imperfect humans using imperfect sounding analog plugins, right? In fact, the older analog equipment seemed to have a lot of noise along with character that it brought in, which sort of became a part of the recordings, and somehow that is what most people desire. So let's call that death by analog chocolate. So if you're looking at these imperfect characteristics in your mixes, then you could definitely start with some analog emulation plugins and learn your way through. But no matter which plugin you choose to use, your mixes are only going to be as good as you are. It vastly relies on your skill set. If you can't care to learn the basics and you want some kind of a magical elixir to improve your mixes, your best bet would be a Veritas Serum, so that you can learn the bitter sweet truth that it's just not going to happen. If you're too new to this, then I suggest you hire a mix engineer and work with them, because they will be able to bring in a lot of value to your tracks, and you can always consider sitting next to them, watching them mix, and maybe learning from them, or maybe signing up for some kind of an internship program under a really good producer or a mix engineer and considering learning from them. That's a good option. If not, if you really want to give it a shot, go ahead. There's not much to lose. At best, you're going to have a really bad sounding mix, and that's the best place to start, a bad sounding mix. And you grow, you work your way through it, you improve, and eventually your mixes start to get better and better. So you would ideally start with a static mix and then work your way through using plugins like EQ and compression, and then your group buses, processing your buses, and then getting into effects, and then finally maybe some automation and all of that stuff, and you should be good to go. But however, if you really want to get into the depth of mixing, and it's definitely beyond the scope of this video, I could make another series if you're interested and share how I use some of these plugins. But In any case, leave a comment below and let me know if that's something that you're keen. Anyhow, I hope this video gave you a basic understanding of some of the plugins that you need to get started with mixing your own tracks. See you in the next video, which is the last video of this series, and that's going to be mastering. I'm going to show you a couple of mixes versus masters examples, so you kind of get an idea what exactly mastering is doing. Otherwise, I think we are pretty good in that sense. But anyway, don't forget to create, play, and record.